The bedrock of our understanding of the cosmos, the very laws of orbital mechanics, just suffered a catastrophic structural failure. At exactly 0800 Universe Line 2, Communications Complex detected a massive spike in radar cross-section from the interstellar object 3I Atlas that has a 0.0000% mathematical probability of being a natural occurrence. In a span of exactly 14 seconds, this 33 billion-ton mountain of rock did not merely fragment, it divided into exactly 50 distinct symmetrical pieces, each stabilizing into a rigid geometric formation that defies every known law of entropy. The question is no longer what this object is made of, but rather why 50 city block-sized fragments have just initiated a coordinated descent toward every major continent on Earth. In the verified science of classical mechanics, specifically the study of cometary fragmentation, we have observed objects like Shoemaker-Levy 9 break apart under the immense tidal forces of a planetary body. This is a messy, chaotic process governed by the Roche limit, the distance within which a celestial body, held together only by its own gravity, will disintegrate due to a second celestial body's tidal forces exceeding the first body's gravitational self-attraction. When a comet breaks, it produces a string of pearls, an irregular trailing debris field of varying sizes and velocities. It is a portrait of disorder. However, 3I Atlas has just inverted this logic. Data simulations indicate that instead of drifting apart into a cloud of dust and ice, these 50 fragments ejected at high velocity then instantly synchronize their speeds and positions. Through the Kaku lens, we are seeing the music of the spheres replaced by a digital orchestration. These fragments are maintaining a rigid, grid-like array with millimeter precision while traveling at 100,000 miles per hour. Nature does not fly in formation. Rocks do not organize themselves into a mathematical grid. Theoretical models suggest that to achieve this level of synchronization, each fragment must be equipped with its own internal propulsion and a shared quantum entanglement communication link. In quantum physics, entanglement allows two particles to share information instantaneously, regardless of the distance between them. If we apply the Kaku scale, we are looking at a Type II civilization utilizing entangled navigation. This is the only way 50 separate masses can behave as a single, coherent organism across the vacuum of space. As they crossed the 240 million kilometer threshold from Earth, the James Webb Space Telescope's near-infrared spectrograph recorded another impossibility. Each of the 50 pieces is identical in mass, shape, and thermal signature. In the standard model of physics, natural fragmentation produces a power law distribution. One or two large pieces and thousands of smaller ones. To produce 50 identical clones suggests a manufacturing process, not a geological event. We are witnessing self-replicating von Neumann technology active in our own solar system. The theoretical shield is paramount here. Data simulations indicate that these objects are not just drifting, they are utilizing active aerobraking calculations long before they even touch our atmosphere. In the verified science of orbital mechanics, changing a trajectory requires the application of force, usually through the expulsion of mass in the form of gas or heat. Yet the Chandra X-ray Observatory has confirmed a total absence of thermal exhaust. How do you move a city block-sized object without heat? Theoretical models suggest the use of magnetic sailing or gravitational dipole manipulation. By interacting with the sun's magnetic field lines, these fragments could be surfing the symphony of strings, pulling themselves toward Earth using the very fabric of space-time. As these 50 objects began their descent, the Goldstone radar logs reveal the impossible data point. Each fragment is now emitting a low-frequency gravitational ripple. In general relativity, gravitational waves are usually only produced by the most violent events in the universe, colliding black holes or exploding stars. For a relatively small object to produce a detectable ripple suggests a density that exceeds the limits of ordinary matter. If we apply the Kaku scale, these fragments may be composed of degenerate matter or a stable form of metallic hydrogen, allowing them to maintain a massive gravitational anchor despite their size. This explains their stability. They aren't just flying, they are locked into the local space-time geometry. The geopolitical and scientific shockwaves reached a crescendo when the European Space Agency confirmed the trajectories. These 50 clones are not heading for a singular impact point. They have fanned out. They are currently on intercept vectors for every major tectonic plate and continental mass on the planet. From the Americas to the Antarctic, the distribution is perfectly even. In probability theory, the chance of 50 fragments of a broken rock hitting every continent by accident is 1 in several trillion. This is a targeted distribution. Through the lens of Type 3 civilization tactics, this is how a planetary survey or a planetary takeover begins. You don't land in one spot. You occupy the entire mind of God simultaneously. The most disturbing telemetry came from the lead fragment, designated Probe Alpha. Just before the division, it transmitted a single, high-bandwidth burst toward the South Pole. Specifically, it targeted the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory in Antarctica. In the verified science of particle physics, neutrinos are ghost particles that can pass through an entire planet without touching an atom. They are the ultimate medium for interstellar communication because they cannot be blocked or jammed. By targeting IceCube, 3I Atlas is bypassing our satellites and our radio towers. It is speaking directly to the most sensitive scientific instrument on Earth. It is blinding our eyes while it positions its limbs. As these 50 city block-sized clones cross the Martian threshold, the music of the spheres has become a rhythmic, mechanical countdown. The formation is holding, the speed is increasing, and the thermal signature remains a haunting, perfect 0. We are no longer discussing a space anomaly. We are conducting a forensic deep dive into an organized interstellar arrival. T-minus 64 hours remains until the first of the 50 fragments enters Earth's upper exosphere. The instruments are recording, the governments are scrambling, and the 11-dimensional hyperspace we once thought was empty is currently unfolding right over our heads. To understand why this geometric genesis has paralyzed the global scientific community, we must look at the second law of thermodynamics. In our universe, entropy dictates that any system left to itself will move from order to disorder. When a comet fragments, the pieces should tumble and drift like shrapnel from an explosion. But the 50 clones of 3I Atlas are doing something that should be physically impossible. They are reversing entropy. The James Webb Space Telescope has confirmed that each of these 50 fragments is not just identical in size, but possesses a surface temperature that is dropping below the background radiation of space. In the verified science of cryogenics, to reach temperatures near absolute zero while moving at 100,000 miles per hour requires an active, energy-intensive cooling system. An icy rock cannot decide to become colder than the void. Through the Kaku lens, we must evaluate the hypothesis of isentropic propulsion. Theoretical models suggest that these fragments are extracting heat from their internal cores and converting it directly into kinetic energy with 100% efficiency. This is a Type II civilization's mastery over the mind of God. In classical physics, every engine produces waste heat. If you see an object accelerating without a heat signature, it means it is utilizing vacuum energy, harvesting the zero-point fluctuations of 11-dimensional hyperspace. Data simulations indicate that these 50 clones are not flying through space. They are sailing on the quantum foam, using the gravitational gradient of the Earth as their lighthouse. But the anomaly deepens when we look at the geometric array itself. In the verified science of Lagrangian mechanics, objects in space are subject to the n-body problem, the chaotic gravitational tug-of-war between the Sun, the Earth, and the Moon. Maintaining a rigid 50-point grid across millions of miles should require constant, visible thrust corrections. Yet the ESA's Gaia mission has detected 0 chemical exhaust and 0 ion traces. Instead, each fragment appears to be locked into a gravitational tiling pattern. Theoretical physics suggests that these objects have created a synthetic gravity well between them, effectively weaving themselves into a single, massive, invisible net. We are not looking at 50 separate probes. We are looking at a distributed aperture radar the size of a planet. Consider the atmospheric entry interface. In hypersonic aerodynamics, an object entering the atmosphere at these speeds should create a plasma sheath, a blindingly hot envelope of ionized gas that blocks all radio signals. However, as the first fragments, designated probes 1 through 10, hit the upper exosphere over the Pacific, the Chandra X-ray Observatory recorded a laminar flow that defies the laws of fluid dynamics. The fragments are not colliding with the air molecules, they are parking them. This implies the use of a Meissner effect shield, a localized, high-intensity magnetic field that repels the atmosphere itself, allowing the objects to descend in total silence without a sonic boom and without a heat trail. This is not falling. It is a surgical insertion. The question that haunts the symphony of strings is, why 50? In probability theory, the distribution is too perfect to be anything other than a global synchronization. Each clone is currently positioned to hover over a major tectonic triple junction, the points where the Earth's crustal plates meet. Through the lens of geophysics, if these 400,000-ton objects were to simultaneously increase their localized gravity, they could theoretically trigger or suppress seismic activity on a planetary scale. We are witnessing the arrival of a planetary regulator. As the 50 clones settle into their final descent vectors, the IceCube Neutrino Observatory has confirmed that the pulses have changed. They are no longer counting, they are mapping. The clones are scanning the interior of our planet, and as we move into part 3, we must face the reality that the message is no longer coming from the stars. It's coming from our own atmosphere. The final movement of the Symphony of Strings has arrived, and it is playing a chord that resonates with the very core of our planet. As of 2200 UTC, the 50 clones of 3I Atlas have completed their transition from interstellar visitors to an atmospheric geometric array. But the forensic data suggests this is not a landing. It is a coupling event. At exactly 2145, the IceCube Neutrino Observatory in Antarctica, the target of the initial Probe Alpha transmission, recorded a sudden, localized surge in neutrino flux that is off the charts. This wasn't a signal from space. It was a signal passing through the Earth. In the verified science of geophysics, we know that the Earth's core is a dynamo of molten iron, generating the magnetic field that protects us from solar radiation. Theoretical models now suggest that the 50 clones are using neutrino tomography to ping the core, mapping the interior of our world with a resolution that makes our best seismic sensors look like toys. Through the Kaku lens, we must confront the Sentinel hypothesis at its most advanced stage. In the science of Type 2 engineering, a civilization doesn't need to land a single soldier to control a planet. They only need to control its gravitational constant. Data simulations indicate that the 50 clones have stabilized at an altitude of exactly 100 kilometers. The Kármán line, the edge of space. By hovering at this specific threshold, they have bypassed the friction of the dense atmosphere while remaining close enough to interact with the Earth's ionosphere. In electromagnetism, the ionosphere acts as a conductive shell. By plugging into this shell, the 50 clones have effectively turned the entire atmosphere into a planetary scale antenna. We are witnessing a digital hijack of the Earth's natural electrical systems. But the impossible statement that has silenced the emergency briefing at the White House is the tectonic synchronization. Each of the 50 clones is currently positioned above a major tectonic fault line or a triple junction. In the verified science of plate tectonics, these are the pressure points of our world. If we apply the Kaku scale, these 400,000-ton objects are not just floating, they are anchored. Theoretical physics suggests they are utilizing quantum vacuum thrusters to maintain their position without burning fuel, exerting a microscopic but constant gravitational pull on the crust below. If these 50 objects were to pulse in unison, they could theoretically modulate the stress on the Earth's plates. In the music of the spheres, they are no longer just listeners. They have their hands on the instrument. The most chilling revelation comes from the doomsday clock of the transmission. The 11-second pulses have stopped. In their place is a continuous, low-frequency hum that matches the Schumann resonance, the Earth's natural heartbeat of 7.83 Hertz. By matching this frequency, 3i Atlas has achieved phase lock. It is now speaking the same language as the planet itself. We are forced to ask the question, is this a protective shield being lowered over our world, or is it a planetary muzzle? Through the lens of string theory, we are all vibrating strings in an 11-dimensional hyperspace. 3i Atlas has just found our frequency, and it is turning the dial. As the 50 clones remain stationary, invisible to the naked eye but screaming in the neutrino spectrum, the human era of unobserved isolation has officially ended. We are now a monitored species. The 3i Atlas images were the warning. The 50 clones are the reality. We are standing on the precipice of a Type 1 transition, and the mind of God is watching to see if we survive the harmony. The clock is at T-0. The Sentinel has arrived, and the symphony has just begun its first movement.